Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio as we kick off a brand new week this week. My name is Dave Scott. We're getting into monsters tonight with Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com. We're glad to have Lon here. Dirty Filth will be here with his great artwork as well. And we're so thankful all of you are tuning us in tonight as well. All right, let's say hello to all of you. We got Race Fan in the gold medal position. Laura Lobbs with a silver. Raymond L. taking home the bronze medal tonight. Robert Lamoth and Kathy Evans, good to see you. Chris 716 and Dogface Simon, thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight. Very much appreciate you for hanging on out and supporting what we do on a nightly basis. And yes, GNR, always the best. Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, the Debster, and Lisa C. Good to see you. Ann Boeen, what's happening? D. Cohen, thanks for coming on in. Hi, Kevin. And Sensational Sherry. Sensational Sherry will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Ozzy Sue and Ozzy Paul, how are you? Good to see you both. And Tim Mothman and his goatee, two separate entities. Miss Nicole, UFO Disclosure, how are you? Para Marv, good to see you. Mexi97 is here. Mexi97 will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Let's continue on. Leon Shura, welcome to SOR Chat. And who else do we have here? We have Peppa H, good to see you. Crystal J, thank you for coming on in. Number 14 in your program, starting at right wing. He's got 36 points on the season from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson. Forrest Louie, thank you so much for getting into the super chat again. Love your support for, dude, every friggin' night. Thank you. Very much thank you, my man. Very much appreciate you. Let's continue on. T-Bone, how you doing? Jenny White Bear, we love you, honey. How you doing? Jessica McCreary, your hair is looking gorgeous tonight. Third Rock and Kurt M, how are you? And we continue on with the Debster throwing in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Debbie. We love you around here. I hope you're having an amazing night. The lovely pink-haired Pixie Lara, how are you, my dear? I hope you had a great weekend. Luscious Jules, how you doing? And Ozzy, what's happening, my man? Let's continue on. Penman, what's happening, buddy? I hope you had a great weekend. Millennium, my man, good to see you. And Foggy Nation or Foggy Notions podcast. What's happening? Welcome to SOR Chat. Bobbert, good to see you. Philip Baca, what's happening? Continuing on with our roll call, there's Mike and Justin Hemmingson, the pride of Burnaby. Yep, there he is. Vanessa, thank you for joining us. Sweet Robbie G, how you doing? And there's little Timmy Senor in early. And S for Matt, how you doing? W. David Page, War Criminal, how you guys doing? Thank you for joining us, everyone. And Oop to Joe Spain, you've got birthday candles. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Oob, to Joe's Maine. Happy birthday to you. And many more, my beautiful friend. I love you, man. Happy birthday. Dirt Road, how's it going, Roy boy? And who else do we have here? Pam Harris, thank you for coming on in. Hi, Super Crazy. And Emmy Tong, we're running out of time. Can we get this done? Nick Adkins, how you doing? And Greg Maloney in Thailand. Be the Arrow, good to have you guys here. Blue Cruz, thank you for joining us. And Jeff Steve Garvey, he'll hit a home run for you. Nancy Thames, how are you? Bryson's Folly, just another guy named Harry. Toothbrush, how you doing? Jerry O'Brien and Digger Dog. We are done. Word one list. Here we go. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of information tonight. Lon Strickler returns for Strange Days, where he's going to be getting into a lot of monster talk. Then in hour number 3, we have Steve Stockton with another creepy story from Among the Missing. Little Timmy Senor returns with the UFO report. Lon Strickler is a Fortean researcher, author, and publisher of phantomsandmonsters.com. It's a blog he began in 2005 that is literally read by tens of thousands of paranormal enthusiasts each and every week. His research and reports have been featured in hundreds of online media sources, as well as television shows like Fact or Faked or Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries in America. He's an author. You can find all of his books at any online store like Amazon or Barnes & Noble. That's why we love Lon Strickler around here. Not only is he knowledgeable, but he has been voted 5 of the last 7 years with the best beard in cryptozoology. We bring him in now. Lon Strickler, thank you so much for being here, my friend. How are you?
Always great to be with you, Dave.
You know, I every time I mention your beard and then I see you kind of giggling on camera like, oh, God, here he goes again. I'm sorry, man. I just had to get a good laugh out of it.
Well, I'm used to it, so it doesn't matter.
What have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. I've been kind of lying low, to be honest with you. Trying to keep busy, but, I've been doing a whole lot since, ever since I got back from Chicago. I've been kind of hanging around here and doing a few things locally, but nothing major.
How has the year of cryptids been? I mean, we're now in the dog days of summer here, about to kick those off. And, baseball season is getting into its highlights. I mean, trade deadline day and everything. But in the cryptid world, we're right in the heat of things right now. We've got another few months before winter sets in and, things die off due to the cold. But for you, how has this year been in the crypto world?
Honestly, it's been fairly slow, which is kind of surprising, I think. since this is really the first year that everybody has kind of gotten out and they're out on the road, they're doing a lot of things. And that might be the reason why I'm not getting as many reports, but we've been looking into a lot of different things regardless of the amount of reports we've been getting. So, but no, I think the quality of the reports has kind of increased as opposed to the volume of it. I talked to Stan Gordon just the other day, and he was saying that it's been busy out his way out in Western Pennsylvania. And, I know people west of me have been getting reports, but in our area in particular, it's been kind of slow. But all in all, I guess it's maybe about the same. But it's been more quality as opposed to quantity.
Is that unusual? You've been doing this 20 plus years. Is that unusual, or is it just cyclical?
It comes in cycles. I can never really count on anything being consistent as far as reports go. I mean, just look at we get in Chicago. I haven't had a report out of Chicago in almost a little over 2 months. And maybe this year we've had 4 or 5. So is it waning off? It might be, but unless people see it and report it, we're kind of stuck with what we got. But there have been other things going on. I mean, the cryptid canine reports, even though most of them are older reports, people are coming forward and talking about it. And the more I post, the more I go on YouTube and talk about these phenomena, people are starting to come forward more and more. But I think it's the quality of the reports has actually increased.
I'm always hesitant to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it to you because you take reports from all over the world. Mm-hmm. Is there a cultural factor with what the reports are? Like, say, do Caucasian people see more or file more reports than, say, the Hispanic community or the African American community?
It's hard to say. I had mentioned before that the reports in Chicago have been a majority Hispanic witnesses. But all in all, with Bigfoot and other reports, I believe it's more Caucasian all in all. But if you start talking about culture, I think the North America in general and South America kind of are the brunt of the reports of anything that's cryptid in particular.
Right. Well, speaking of Hispanic people, a lot of Hispanic people along the Texas-Mexico border and the California border have always been reporting sightings of chupacabra. How come this seems to be a cryptid that's dried out? We rarely hear any more chupacabra reports. What's going on there?
Well, I think people are realizing what some people have been calling the chupacabra nothing more than what is a hybrid type of wolf coyote mix that, it's been coined the blue dogs because it has no hair and the skin color is kind of a grayish blue. Those aren't chupacabras. But because the actual chupacabra sightings when they started and when they continued on, actually started in Puerto Rico, and there were some in Cuba and some of the other Caribbean islands. Some of the Latin countries down in South America had mentioned chupacabras. I think it kind of took it was kind of the moniker for most unexplained attacks on livestock and such. So I think that's the real reason why it's kind of dried up. But I do occasionally get one. But as far as what people had been reporting in in Puerto Rico and the descriptions of that being, that's not what people have been seeing.
So for people who don't know what the chupacabra is, it looks like a feral dog, almost like a hybrid between a coyote, a wolf, a fox, and a German shepherd, but it has no hair. And it's a weird looking thing.
Yeah, that's what people have been seeing down in the southwest part of the country, in Texas and up into Oklahoma. I honestly believe that's a hybrid being. I mean, a Mexican wolf and a coyote for the most part. There may be some domesticated mixes in there as well. But the actual chupacabra that was first reported back in the 60s may have had some extraterrestrial aspects to it, because some of the sightings were of a larger type being, a quadruped for the most part, but some of them were bipedal. They had a somewhat, I don't know, an alien look to it, like some type of a reptilian mixed thing, but they had spikes in their backs, and some of them had tails, but they had claws, and they were kind of a weird looking being. Many times they had like large orange or red eyes as well. Most of the reports that came out of at that time down in Puerto Rico and Cuba as well were of that type of being.
Okay, so the reason why we're not getting a lot of chupacabra reports right now, do you think that has anything to do with the idea that sometimes these creatures just vanish, they just disappear, or people just stop reporting on it?
Well, that could be. I mean, it could be a whole lot of reasons. Both of what you said could very well be the reason. They're just not showing up. People are seeing them and not reporting them anymore. When they were seeing these blue dogs or these hybrid canids, it was kind of a new thing. People didn't understand what it was, and the first thing they said was, "I was a chupacabra." But I think people are still seeing them, but they're just not reporting them. A lot of the people that started reporting these things and started reporting them to the game commissions in Texas and other states, they were kind of getting pushed away by the authorities, saying, well, it's just a hybrid or something else. It's just not what you think it is. So I think people kind of backed off of it.
Does that happen often in the cryptid world, where creatures seem to vanish and disappear?
It does on occasion. I mean, just like you talk about the Mothman. The Mothman, you had the big deal in Point Pleasant for several years, and then occasionally you get a sighting here and there, and then it kind of spread out along the Ohio Valley. And, I had reports here and there for years and years. I mean, up until the point even I started getting the sightings in Chicago. So, and the Chicago sightings have been going on now for almost a dozen years. So, but in that time, and even before that, there were sightings. It's just that for whatever reason, people just started seeing more and more of them. And now we're kind of in a slow period. Who's to say it's not going to pick up again? But, all in all, it does seem to come in spurts. And that's any phenomena, what people call like a flap with UFOs, or some people do call cryptid sightings come in flaps, but, it's not always consistent.
Are there many other cryptids out there where we have, we just don't see anymore, that just have vanished over the years?
I don't know. We got a lot of sightings for a lot of different things. Humanoid type beings that we just really don't know what they are. They come in all shapes and sizes. Are people seeing alien beings? Are they seeing cryptids that or some type of indigenous being, or maybe an interdimensional being. You know, it's really hard to tell if these things, if there have been sightings and then they faded off and then it continues back. Thunderbird sightings, that's continued on, off and on. Other types of winged cryptids, the pterosaurs. Every once in a while, somebody will, a bunch of them will start showing up, and then people kind of be out on the lookout for them because they know that somebody had seen one. Another cryptid that I have been involved with looking into now for about 15 years have been these manta ray shaped beings, many of which I think are some type of bio craft for the most part, but a lot of times they're described as being in different sizes as well, some type of undulating type of flying being that is shaped like a manta ray. Now, is it some type of craft? Is it some type of animal or alien being? Who knows? But that's something that has come in spurts here and there. And I've probably looked into about 24 of those sightings since about 15 years ago. So, but it's something that still occurs.
Could many of these beings maybe have just vanished? Like maybe they weren't from here, or they were from underground in inner Earth, and they just haven't popped up since.
It's very possible. It is very possible. We really just don't have a handle on where a lot of these things come from and the explanation as to why they're showing up. So if they stop coming to the surface, so to say, then we just don't see them, and they're kind of put into the lore of cryptids until somebody else sees one or two or more, and then they kind of get into the nomenclature of current cryptids, and then we're looking at it again.
Okay, so it's just so hard to fathom, how some of these creatures can arrive and just vanish for long lengths of time. Lon, have you had a situation, or have you investigated a situation where, say, a creature was seen in 1975 and it hadn't been seen until, say, 2001, and then it hadn't been seen again until this year? Have you ever had something like that happen?
Well, I mean, the only thing I can really think of like that is the winged humanoids, the Mothman-like beings, or what people call them, the Mothman, or the whatever you want to call it. Of course, I don't think there's any direct connection between some of these sightings, but the winged beings are, and there's lots of different types. Why they do show up eventually and then seem to fade off for a long period of time, that's where we start coming up with this interdimensional theory, that they may stay away from our Earth plane for a certain number of years or so, and then for whatever reason they just show up. That's the mystery of what we do. And when we're lucky enough to get a sighting and look into it, and to find where others have been having other encounters or sightings, and we'll look into it.
Lon Strickler is with us tonight on Spaced Out Radio for Strange Days. His website, phantomsandmonsters.com. Lon, we got another 5 minutes with you before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Out of all the creatures that have kind of vanished or disappeared, is there one in particular that really kind of ruffles your feathers that you would have liked to have had an encounter with or seen?
I don't know about that. I mean, I kind of take what I get, I really don't have a wish list. Let's put it that way. There have, over the centuries, there have been sightings of a lot of different things. Of course, Butch and I had been looking into the bipedal canines for many years, but there's a history of that in this part of the country, in Maryland and Pennsylvania and other areas of these cryptid canines that, for whatever reason, they, for a long time, there weren't many sightings. And then all of a sudden, starting back around 2013, then people started reporting them. Now we get a few older sightings, but just not as much as we were. So it does come in it does come in what you call flaps. Why that is, we don't know. Are they indigenous? They could be, I guess, in some instances. But for the most part, like what I have told you for years, I believe cryptids in general are an interdimensional being of some type, and they may even come from the same place. But I think that they don't spend all their time here with us, and that when they do show up, that's when people are seeing it. Now, why they're doing it, we just don't know. And maybe one day we will find out, but that's why we do what we do.
We keep on looking. We keep on
looking.
And what's the fun part for you in looking? Knowing that 99% of the time, you're not going to find anything.
Right. I guess it's the whole unexplained mystery of these things. For whatever reason, I people tell you who know me, when I get a report of something absolutely new or something that's hasn't been seen in such a long time or in a specific area for a while, that it excites me. I get all nervous and, I get all bent out of shape a lot of times because I want to find out more about it and get it out there for people to read, to understand. That's just me. I mean, I know a lot of people that think I'm crazy when I do that, but I just want people to know, that there are mysteries out there yet. And, that's what we do. And that's why we're out there looking for them. It rouses me up. It excites me.
Oh, it's a thrill of the chase.
Absolutely.
I totally get that because I'm the exact same way in knowing that it's the thrill of the chase and you definitely want to be a part of that. I mean, it's amazing how a 3 or 4 second experience can totally motivate you in order to, set you on a lifetime of searching.
Exactly. I mean, look, I've been through this myself. I've had encounters that, why, the first thing you ask is, why did it happen to me? Why was I given this privilege of seeing something or seeing 2 different things or whatever? And what's the reason behind it? Am I destined to have seen it? Is it come, to light with me that, maybe I was supposed to see it. Maybe I was allowed to see it. I think that very well may be part of this whole experience. I have talked to several people in the past, people who have worked with me also. Many of them never see anything, but they're intrigued by it and they hope one day they will. Somebody says in the chat, you were chosen. Well, maybe it chose me. A lot of these sightings in Chicago and in Pennsylvania, and I think people are destined to see some things. They have been chosen to see these things. And maybe that's how they get the word out that they're around, that they know certain people see it and they will come forward and talk about it.
And on that note, ended just perfectly as we say goodbye to segment number 1 and hello segment number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Right around the corner, Lon Strickler and Strange Days. Lon's website, phantomsandmonsters.com. When we return, we're going to get into some stories with Lon and the cryptids. Rock and roll, man.
Rock and roll.
Good start right there. Solid start. I'd give us I'd give us a 1-0 lead after the first inning. Definitely.
It's funny. I can finally sit down and watch a decent baseball team now. I've been an Orioles fan all my life, and now I'm starting to enjoy it again. It's been all these years, and I'm kind of getting my feet wet again with the major leagues, but it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, my Yankees they're struggling.
Boy. Oh, I didn't know you were a Yankees fan.
Yeah.
The evil empire.
Yeah, I just, I tried to put it off for a number of years, but I just fell in love.
You know what? They need to get rid of Cashman. He's been there too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with Cashman is when you need a pitcher, he adds a bat. When you need a third baseman, he adds an outfielder.
Yeah.
When you need an outfielder, he adds an Oakland A's type of reliever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, I think he's kind of been there too long. It's interesting watching the podcast on YouTube from Yankees people. Man, I'm telling you, they just get so upset with what's going on in New York. But hey, welcome to my world. That's the frustration we've been putting up with for all these years, and with the management not necessarily the ownership we had here in town. So here, when I was living in Baltimore, I'm not far from Baltimore now, but yeah, I've been an Orioles fan ever since I was a kid. So when I was growing up, I was used to decent teams every year, and Baltimore was a baseball town.
Oh yeah. What was there a deadlier duo in the infield back then than Cal Ripken and Rafael Palmeiro?
Absolutely.
And
they were strong up the middle. Yeah, they always were. I'm talking about going back when we had Brooks and Boog Powell and those guys back in the 60s and 70s. They were always a strong team, and they had a really good farm system, and they got away from all that after the 90s, and after Cal retired, and then Angelos got real cheap, and then everybody was getting better except the Orioles.
Oh, tell me about it. It's just, if I look at the Toronto Blue Jays, if they could ever add a manager of substance, with that young talent on that team, they should be doing way better than what they are right now.
Well, they got spoiled when Pat Gillick was there, and he it's funny. It was because he came to Baltimore and became, he kind of built that team back up again in the mid 90s. But they haven't been the same since Gillick left. Really, they've had a good farm system, but they just really haven't been the caliber they were back then.
No. They're not a 59-48 team. The problem with the Jays is they always seem to have troubles with their bottom three in their starting rotation.
Yeah,
that kills them every year, and then their relief pictures are terrible.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping now the trade deadline is going to be up tomorrow afternoon, so about 6 or so. Is that time? I don't know what it is, but anyway, I hope that we do get a decent starter. We need one to go the distance. So we got a pretty good bullpen, but the starters are just that's the weakest part of the team right now. But we got a young team. Somebody talking about Bo Bichette. He got hurt tonight.
Did he get hurt tonight?
Yeah, I think he blew his knee out.
Oh, geez. Let's hope not.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Thank you, T2E, for that great super sticker. I know you don't like your name up on the screen, so love you, my dear. Thank you. Hi, Susan Alloway. Thank you to Simon Times 2, Deb, and Louie for the great super chats as well. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, and we do it all for you. Here comes the second half hour. Second half hour, Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com is here once again, and we are talking all things monstrous because that's what we do around here. And Lon's website, phantomsandmonsters.com, you can get any of his books on Amazon. Lon, welcome back. Always good to have you here.
Always good to be here.
You sent me some stories earlier on tonight that I thought we would get into.
Okay. Yeah, I did. We these are actually some reports that were sent to me. Now, they're not necessarily new reports, but they kind of got my interest because two of them were cryptid canine reports out of Pennsylvania. And then we had another one down in Maryland of a cryptid canine report that was actually seen not far from where I had my Bigfoot encounter.
Really? Well, let's get into this one. This one is this the first one you sent me about the massive upright canine attacks in Erie?
Well, it's not that one. It was the last one I sent you. But no, the one in Erie, that one, that's an interesting one. That was actually occurred in July 2020. And for people who know the city of Erie, now I don't know how many people around here know Erie that well, but there is a park in there called Asbury Woods. And this gentleman had an encounter with what he said was a large bipedal canine that literally attacked him. And when I say attacked, it knocked him on the ground and was actually holding him down. And he stated that this thing was pretty good size, and that as he thought this thing was going to tear him up. But apparently there was a whistling sound that came from within the woods that he could barely hear, but this cryptid canine heard it and took off towards it. Now, was it someone or something calling it away from him? I don't know. Now, I made a few inquiries about this, and I know he did as well. He did with the Pennsylvania Game Commission, which is like talking to a wall because, of course, they're not going to acknowledge anything. But I made a few inquiries with some people in the area, and I did have one person tell me that they did know of an encounter, not necessarily in that location, but that the body style was very similar, that it was kind of human-like, had human legs, arms, and body, and was very tall, kind of a grayish brown. And I don't know if it's the same thing that this gentleman had encountered or not. But it was the interesting point of it was that it made physical contact with this individual. Now, I did talk to this person, and they sound pretty believable to me. So who knows?
Okay, so when you get a sighting like this one, and for our audience, I'm going to read it off here just so
Okay.
they kind of know what we're talking about. A Maryland resident discusses the cryptid and unexplained sightings and encounters that his friend and others have experienced in various locations. I have one that a friend shared with me and a few encounters I have heard of in the area. My name is Will. No one should feel the shame for experiencing something strange in the woods. I have a dogman story. One of my good friends shared with me. Our friend grew up here in Maryland with me, and I've known her since high school. She lives out of state now, but when she visits, we always exchange hiking stories and things we do out in the woods. Her job involves her being out in the woods for days at a time, so she's very familiar with things out in nature. One day we were talking about weird stuff we have seen and heard in the woods. She told me something that shocked me. Let me preface this by saying she knows I'm interested in the Bigfoot topic and that I have experienced weird things, so she felt comfortable telling me what happened to her. She told me while taking a trip to southern Maryland to visit a college campus with her mom, there's a spot in the road that people apparently see a ghost of a Civil War soldier crossing the road. As they're getting closer to the spot, she said that a giant black dog ran across the road in front of the car on all fours. She told me that the dog's back was 5 feet off the ground. She said it happened so fast that her mind didn't register what had happened until they further slowed down the road. She asked her mom if she saw it too, and she had no idea what she was talking about. If I'm not mistaken, I think she got her mom to drive back to the spot where it crossed, and she saw nothing. The crazy part of the story is that I've never mentioned to her that people see these dogman cryptids. I completely trust her and believe her story. I showed her some of the pictures of dogman I have seen on the internet and that artists have drawn. She immediately pointed to the one that looked like a black German shepherd. Strange, man. Strange, Lon.
Yeah, that area down in southern Maryland, I'm pretty sure they were talking about St. Mary's County, not far from Point Lookout. The Civil War soldier ghost, that's part of the lore down there because Point Lookout was actually a Confederate prisoner of war camp during the Civil War. But now later on in that account, they were talking about about him hiking along a river where he had some encounters with an encounter with a creature that looked like a hyena with a lion's mane. And when he started naming the area, I started looking into it further and further. And actually, from what I gathered, it was in the area not far from where I had my encounter with a Bigfoot back in 1981.
Really?
And the river itself was, I believe, the south branch of the Tapsco River. Yeah. Yeah, he mentioned something to me about the Hug Thomas Wildlife Management Area, which is in Sykesville. And it's very close to where I had my encounter as well. So I have heard in the past of Dwayyo sightings, what they call the Dwayyo in Maryland. That's the name they started giving this thing back in the 1800s, when a lot of farmers that moved out of Pennsylvania started moving into Maryland, and a lot of these farmers were of German descent, so they knew the lore of the old country as far as the werewolf sightings and such. But they, you read some of the older accounts, they do say that they saw this thing. And back in the 60s and 70s, there were 7 documented sightings of a Dwayyo or something similar to that, some type of upright cryptid canine in the Frederick County area. So, the fact that it was seen in Carroll County, which is a little bit further east going towards Baltimore, along the south branch of the Patapsco River, I think is very possible because, it is an area that's well known for Bigfoot sightings, area where I had my encounter. But there have been some sightings that have been reported by people of some type of cryptid canine.
Interesting. Okay, has the creature in that area, has it ever been known to attack or to be violent towards encounters with people?
Not that I know of. I have never heard of an attack there. And, these sightings, even the sightings back in the 60s and 70s were not physical encounters. They were just sight encounters. People would have seen them either in the distance or a little closer. But now I'm talking, people who know the area, these sightings ran from the Catoctin Mountains south into Middletown, well, west and south into Middletown, Maryland, down into Frederick. Now, for people who don't know the area, the Catoctin Mountains is where Camp David is. So it is an area that's known by a lot of people. It's an area I used to go trout fishing in many, many times when I was younger. So, the Cunningham Falls State Park area, Catoctin Mountains, near Thurmont, Maryland, and down south along 15 down into Frederick. That's where these sightings, these Dueño sightings, were known. And there have been sightings even west of that. Rocky Gorge is another area, another state park where sightings had been as well. And there have been Bigfoot sightings there also.
All right, let's get to another one of these stories here. And this one fascinates me just as much. We'll go to this bipedal cryptid canine chases. So here's the report. And anybody can read these on your website, phantomsandmonsters.com. And one of the things that I like about it, Lon, is all your reports that you post are for free. That's what I like about it. You want to share these stories and encounters that people have with everybody, and you want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity. And I love that about you, my man. I love how you keep that thing going.
Well, I try to make some money off of advertising, but as far as charging to go into the website and for information, that's just not been my style. It's always accessible to anybody who wants to read it.
All right. Well, here's the next story. Let's see. I live near Washington, Pennsylvania. There's been a variety of mysterious creatures and other strange animal encounters reported in this area for a long time. New home construction seems to be causing these creatures to seek refuge in surrounding woods. One creature seen in the area is a large wolf-like animal. While little is known about this elusive creature, reports suggest that it possesses traits similar to both wolves and other large animals such as bears and mountain lions. But some people also claim that it has human-like qualities and features, which I feel is the most disturbing part of its existence. I lived my whole life in this area. When I had my encounter, everything changed. I work as a freelance writer and researcher. It was early morning on January 1st, 2012. I had just gotten out of bed, and after staying out longer than I had wanted at a New Year's Eve party, I was mad at myself for sleeping in and getting ready for my day when I heard this loud noise coming from outside. When I looked out the window, I was shocked to see a large wolf-like creature standing in the middle of my backyard. I was shocked to see a wolf. I was shocked to see a wolf-like. I missed that. Sorry. The creature didn't match anything I had seen before. However, it looked like the creature I had heard stories about all my life. It was easily twice the size of a normal wolf, but had human-like features such as eyes and feet. The mouth was slightly gaped, showing its sharp teeth. The menacing beast was just standing there, staring back at me as I watched it through the window. I didn't know how it knew I was there, and I couldn't figure out what to do about it being in my yard. I stared back at it, trying to figure out what this creature was. The truth is that I was a bit excited to see it. I mean, this was a culmination of all my childhood fantasies and dreams about strange creatures. It was almost a surreal moment for me. But after standing there for quite some time, the creature finally turned and ran off into the woods. Without a second thought, I grabbed my coat and rushed outside to try and follow it. But by the time I got there, it had disappeared into the trees. I stood in the same spot that it had stood, but could not see anything out of the ordinary. I looked around, but there were no footprints, so it seemed necessary to walk over to where it entered the woods. As I approached the edge of the woods, I was shocked by a sudden loud howling. I was now scared, and it felt like I had pushed too far. I started to slowly work my way back towards my home, hoping that the creature would just leave me alone. But as soon as I left the woods, it let out a loud growl and then lunged out of the thick cover. I turned 180 degrees from the creature and ran for my life. I reached my house and closed my back door behind me, but the creature was right there as it smashed into the door, shattering the glass and sending splinters of wood flying through the air. But it didn't get through the door. It stood steady and stayed in place. I was now in the kitchen and grabbed a knife in case it found its way into the house, but by the time I turned to look, the creature was gone. It was as if it had vanished into thin air. I was left standing and wondering what to do next. I called the police and reported the encounter. Over the next few hours, there was a search for the creature, but it was never found. At least that's what the authorities said to me. They told me there was nothing to worry about. The next day, a crew of some sort showed up with cameras and looked like detectors. However, I have no idea who they were or what they were doing. It still remains a mystery. What do you think of an encounter like that?
Well, that's pretty close and personal, and we don't get many like that. But after discussing it with this individual, I truly believe he had something that happened. Now, the fact that he called the police and apparently they took it somewhat serious, because the next day they had other people coming out. I don't know who they were. He didn't know who they were. It could have been some local paranormal or cryptid investigative team. Now, this is Washington County, so this is just south of Pittsburgh. And of course, these sightings are pretty well known in Greene County and in Washington County. That's the southwest corner of the state. And of course, there have been sightings there and further west into Ohio and down into West Virginia. So, these cryptid canine sightings have been reported over all that time, and they're still being reported there. So, he had contacted me after seeing some of the reports I had, after he had done some searches, and decided eventually to contact me. Now, I believe he had contacted other people in the past, but for whatever reason, I hadn't seen this report anywhere.
It didn't sound like a dog man or a bipedal canine. It sounded like something completely different, Lon.
Yeah, it could have been, but the way he described it and the way it reacted, it did seem much more aggressive than what we normally run into. I think many times when people have encounters with these beings, these cryptid canines, they try to put distance between each other. This one really seemed to stand out. Now, why it did that, I don't know. Now, he hasn't had an encounter. He's still living in the same house, and he hasn't had another encounter since then. So, who knows? Who knows what it was?
No roaring.
Again,
No
are we
roaring,
talking about it? What's that?
No roaring, no nothing?
No, he hasn't heard a thing. He hasn't heard a thing, and I think that's pretty remarkable. Maybe the thing, by them coming out there and investigating the area, maybe it scared it off and it went into another area. We have had a lot of similar reports in Greene County, which is just southwest of Washington County. Greene County, Pennsylvania has had a lot of cryptid sightings. I've had a lot of reports from there in the past. Rosemary Ellen Guiley had several reports from there as well. In fact, she wrote a book about Greene County and cryptid sightings there. And I've had a few in the past as well. Also from something that people were calling a dark walker. They don't know if it was a Bigfoot or a cryptid canine. But there have been sightings of creatures in that county.
Why do you think this one seemed so much more aggressive than what we've heard in the past?
Don't know, and that's one thing I can't explain. Maybe, I don't know. The fact that it was standing out in the yard and making itself shown to him, and it seemed to know that he was there. Was it trying to coax him to come out? I don't know. Maybe. But he definitely went back out. He definitely went out into the yard and followed it into the woods. He just bit off a bit more than what I think he could chew. And it scared him.
Really? Yeah. I mean, to me, it seems like it had something to do with, him traipsing into the forest and into this creature's territory. And this creature was none too pleased about that.
That very well could be. I don't know if it was, if it coaxed him out there, and then he showed up. He wasn't happy about him being there. It seems that because he, had lunged out and chased into the house. I believe if it would have wanted to catch him, it would have. So maybe it was a warning to make sure he stayed where he was and not to come out there and bother him anymore. So I don't know.
I mean, that thing could have easily killed him.
Easily.
I mean, but the fact that the thing did slam into his back door, wrecking the back door, shattering glass. I mean, that seems a little too horror movie for me, where the last second he's able to shut the door before the creature slams into it. Was there pictures of the door that he showed you, or
he didn't know? He didn't show me any pictures. Now, was he telling me the truth? I don't know. I just assume he was. But other than his anecdotal evidence of what he told me, that's all I know. But I do know the area has had sightings and encounters in the past.
Of this creature?
Of creatures similar to this.
Were you surprised? I mean, I'm surprised, and I'll get your opinion on this in a second. We got about 90 seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
A creature running on all fours, and if this is January 1st, there's likely going to be snow in his yard.
And I did ask him if there was snow in the yard, and it was. There was, and he didn't see any prints from this thing in the snow, which is another thing, which I think is unusual.
None of this makes sense.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not saying the guy's wrong. Don't get me wrong.
But when you're investigating cryptids, nothing really does make sense a lot of times anyway.
You're right.
When people say they see something like that, but then they when they do see it and they think it is flesh and blood, maybe it was just not flesh and blood. Maybe it was something else. Who knows? I mean, we get this a lot. We've had people who have tracked cryptids, Bigfoot, and they follow a trail of tracks, and then they just suddenly disappear. They stop.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. But it's interesting when you do get a report like this. Many times when people see these things, there are not tracks. There are no tracks to be found.
Lon, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to break here at the top of the hour. When we return with Lon Strickler, we're going to get into another spooky story, take your questions as well. If you're in our chat room or on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio, phantomsandmonsters.com, Lon Strickler on Strange Days here on Spaced Out Radio. Awesomeness, man. That story is weird. Totally
Oh, I
weird.
thought you'd like it.
Oh yeah, that's my kind of woo, Lon. My kind of woo right there. Dirty Filth, we're gonna get you to turn your microphone on.
I'll be right back.
Yep. Hi, Dirty Filth.
Hi, Dave. How's it going?
Good. How's Blobbert?
Blob is piled on top of the other cats currently.
Good. Tell us what you're drawing tonight, and don't forget to tell everybody where to find your book and your website. I'll be right back.
There goes Dave in his bright white sports car, waving at all the cryptids. Yes, scenery. Scenery with no cryptids whatsoever. Yes. Anyways, you can go to filthy.com, FYLTHY.com, and you can scoop a copy of my book. Second book is on the way. Also buy your mom a copy of the book, because you have to be nice to your mom. You only got one. And also, another calendar's coming. Lon Strickler's back with his glass of whiskey. And currently drawing a Sasquatch, a gnome, and a goblin, who may or may not be from Kentucky. Yeah, all the cats are mostly piled on top of each other at the top of the stairs.
How many cats you got, man?
I've got 4 cats.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whiskey.
one's enough for me.
Yeah, Whiskey, the Blob, the Gremlin, and the Gargoyle.
Oh, okay.
The only cat that's hanging out with me in the studio is Whiskey right now. She's grumpy as usual. So, Lon, I got to ask you. Has there ever been a grandma that called you and was like, Sasquatch stole a pie off my windowsill?
What's that again?
Has any grandmas ever called you and said, hey, Lon, a Sasquatch stole like a pie off my windowsill? Like she made like a Saskatoon berry pie or something, and then Sasquatch stole it. Has that ever happened?
That hasn't happened to me, but Stan Gordon has had some calls from people up in the mountains where they've taken stuff from people. I know one old lady that he talked to took a shot with a shotgun at it, and the thing went right through him. So I don't know.
Wow! Don't mess with that, Grandma. Try to take an extra slice of pie.
Uh-huh.
Cake. See you later. Bye. I actually forgot to put the last little bit of green down here on my grass, so I had to slop some more water on there. It's mostly dry now. So yeah, anyways, I'm drawing Sasquatch who's sharing a Saskatoon berry pie with we got the Kentucky Goblin and the gnome. It's gonna be all over their face and everything because what about something about feline aliens? Well, apparently they're called Lyrans of some sort, which is
What's
odd
that?
because those cat aliens are apparently called Lyrans.
Lyran.
And oddly enough, Blob's real name is Lyran.
Oh, really?
Every time I look at her, I'm like, Blob, show your true self to me. And she just meows at me. And Mrs. Filth just kind of shakes her head. She's like, that's okay, sugar. Don't hurt yourself. All right, I should be ready to go here. Edmonton's got a baseball team as well. I believe they're called the Stingers.
All right. Looking good, Dirty Filth.
Thanks, Dave. Does Vancouver have like a semi-pro league? Like I know Edmonton's got the Stingers. Does
Like the
Vancouver have
lacrosse?
anything similar? No, for baseball.
They have Summer League Vancouver Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. You guys were talking baseball, and I was gonna go to one of those Stinger games sometime soon, probably. Check it out.
I used to love going to Nat Bailey Stadium and watching the games. Super Duke, how you doing, buddy? All right. Thank you tonight to T2E, Simon times 2, Deb and Louie for the great super chats. It's a wonderful way to support us nightly on Spaced Out Radio. So thank you so much. 235 people watching right now. If you could give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and after the show, let us know what you think. It really helps us grow our algorithms and grow this show's popularity. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, ring that bell. We are here 7 days a week for your listening entertainment.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here comes hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Gentacular. Gentacular is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com is back for our monthly ditty we call Strange Days, where we look at the monsters that are creeping around our forest. Dogmen, chupacabras, Sasquatch, you name it. Lon is following it. And you can find all of Lon's books by going to Amazon or Barnes & Noble. He's got a plethora of books there to add to your library. Lon, thank you so much for joining us.
Always my pleasure, Dave.
I want to get to this next story you have for us, my man, because this is another good one. We mentioned it right kind of off the top here, but I want to read it for our audience, and then we'll get your reaction. All right. This comes from a man in Erie, Pennsylvania. It says, in the summer of 2020, specifically in early July, I found myself along Lake Erie in Erie, Pennsylvania. It was a fairly densely populated area, not very rural. I believe I lived with a friend after my divorce in the Westminster neighborhood. There is a large park called Asbury Woods. Some of the trees are so old and tall that they could give you a different perspective on life if you let them. There are several paths you could follow, although it can be crowded on some days. Most of the time when I was there, I was the only human. The place almost takes you back in time, if you understand that. I read about people seeing strange animals and flying objects who reported feeling odd at the time of their sightings and experiences. Some call it the Oz effect because people suddenly feel like they aren't in Kansas anymore. Figuratively speaking, nothing like that I saw happen to me, though I'm not saying I reacted calmly. My heart raced when I saw what I described as a dog man or dog-headed man. I felt panic for some time. I put some distance between myself and the beast. However, it was comparable to what I might have felt if the same situation were reenacted. I'm here to tell you what I remember about that incident. However, I feel it's imperative to note that I have been trying for literally years to explain this sighting away. I'm extremely unhappy to be unable to disprove my own observation. I'd like to debunk it. So I used to stroll through Ashbury Woods a lot those days, always alone because I was still emotionally recovering from my divorce. I walked on the same path I had taken 3 or 4 times before, but something about this time was different. I could hear someone or something walking with me in the bushes. It was a sound I had not heard before. Then suddenly, out of the bushes appeared a man over 7 feet tall. He turned and our eyes met. The strange glowing eyes stood out to me. The 2 glowing orbs were in the middle of a giant dog head staring back at me. Those menacing eyes were above 2 rows of giant yellow fangs. They looked like they belonged in dinosaur skeleton mouths at the Natural History Museum. This was not a man. Within seconds, the creature was on top of me, and I was on my back looking up at the beast. It leaned down with its canine snout, sniffing at me from head to foot. I tried not to move. I'd never been that scared before, as the thing only needed 1 bite to end my life. I braced myself for the most pain I'd ever felt when someone or something whistled at a barely noticeable volume. I might not have noticed if the dog-headed beast had not straightened up the second the sound hit the air. Nothing seemed to matter to that dogman as much as the soft whistle we had both heard. It located the sound direction in a second or two, and then I was abandoned as it burst off into the woods. That was the extent of my encounter. I have tried to tell friends and family about my horrifying account, but they refused to believe me. I contacted local animal control as well as the Pennsylvania Game Commission. I never received a response to my inquiry. I recently found your Pennsylvania Dogman Upright Canine map and was intrigued by the number of sightings, but I'm not really sure there is an unknown dog-like beast roaming the state or anywhere else. Wow, Lon. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, how this guy is alive right now, I have no idea.
Well, when I talked to him, he was pretty emotional, and that's pretty unusual. Now, of course, this was like 3 years ago, and I guess it's still pretty fresh in his mind. But for individuals, for people, researchers, and investigators who talk to people who have encounters with something they just don't understand, the emotion is there a lot of times, but he was very emotional. And in fact, I am going to be going up there and talk to him at some point. So maybe we'll find out more. Maybe he'll recall more. But we'll have to wait and see. But no, that was a very descriptive encounter that he had.
I'm just stunned. Like, we rarely hear stories of these creatures attacking people or pinning them down. I mean, this guy was literally seconds away from imminent death.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever that was, or whoever that was who whistled for him, caused it to back away. I don't know if it would have attacked him, but the way he sounded and the way he acted and described it to me, he was sure he was going to die. He really did.
Now, you talked to this gentleman on the phone?
Yeah, I did.
I mean, what did he sound like in describing this?
He was almost crying, quite honest with you. He was very emotional, and I don't think he's I don't think he's an emotional person overall. I don't think he is. I mean, he was talking about he had been going through a divorce, and at the time, and that had really bothered him. And he was kind of an emotional wreck at the time, but this encounter itself took precedent over that. In fact, he did mention to me, he said, you know what? It helped me get over my divorce.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. So, but no, I am planning on going up there and talking to him. So we'll see what comes of that, but he's going to take me to the area.
Ali D is wondering, in your opinion, Lon, what is the difference between a werewolf and a dogman?
Well, Butch and I came up with what we think is a distinction. Now, a werewolf, that is basically part of lore. People who, it's called lycanthropy, a person who takes on the persona of a wolf-like creature, may become violent. There have been instances supposedly where they have attacked and killed people, especially in the old country. But as far as dogman and upright canine, we kind of have it in two categories, where the dogman in general is a quadruped, and it's somewhat hyena-like looking. It's got a slope back. It's got a lot of dog features to it, but it is very muscular, and many times the head is similar to that of a wolf. The upright canines are bipeds, very muscular, very human-like legs and arms and such, very tall, and very chiseled. Not a whole lot of hair. The head of a head of a dog, but not a head of a wolf. More the head of a like a jackal or something like that shape. So that's kind of the distinction that Butch and I have been using ever since we've been looking into this phenomenon.
Let's go to another question here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Guy in Calgary. Any cryptids suspected of hibernation or hibernating?
That's a good question. That's something we've been trying to figure out for a long time. I don't think they hibernate. I think some of them may actually migrate certain times a year. But I don't think they hibernate because we get sightings year round. But I think in some instances, especially where we're at here in South Central Pennsylvania, I think they do move along the Blue Ridge and the Allegheny Mountains, the Appalachians from south to north and back and forth. It's just a hunch I have. I really don't have much proof of it. But many times in the winter, where there are sightings, it is not so much here in Pennsylvania as it is down into West Virginia and Southwest Virginia. We get more up here with Bigfoot and upright canines and dogman sightings during the warmer months up here in Pennsylvania.
I always wonder, like in this area with Sasquatch and a lot of the others, because it does get to some, very, very low temperatures, if they aren't hibernating or finding caves that go to inner earth above the frozen or below the frozen line, where the earth is going to provide its own warmth like it does for many bugs and flies and things like that. And I'm wondering if the cryptids take advantage of that.
They may. I mean, I believe in your part of the world there in the Pacific Northwest, I think they're indigenous beings. So they have family groups, and they have, they actually breed. And, now I'm not saying all of them may do that, but I think there are family groups, and I think they're indigenous beings. Do they hibernate up there? Very possible. Very possible. Maybe it's not like the hibernation of a bear. Maybe it's somewhat different, but I think they're probably less active during the wintertime when the snows are heavy and such. Of course, we do have sightings of them in the snow, but maybe not as much. Now, I think they very well may hibernate, up there. And, because of the weather and the way things are, I think it's very possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not saying all of them do it, but I think some of them may very well do it.
And that makes sense to me. It really does. I mean, but on the flip side, there are a lot of deer lumbering down in the forest and gathering together to stay warm. And if you've ever seen one of these, what I like to call deer pads, where they pretty much clear the snow and they flatten out a bunch of grass, long grass in the middle of the trees where they lie down 8, 10 at a time
Mm-hmm.
to huddle up and stay warm. I mean, that's a perfect area for a Sasquatch to come in and take a yearling or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, by all indications, these creatures are omnivores, so they're not just eating plants like a black bear would do. Now, some black bears are omnivores and they will eat meat. They are sometimes carnivorous, and but I don't think they have the ability to hunt the way that maybe a Bigfoot very well could and supply meat during the wintertime. So it's an interesting question. There's no real rhyme or reason or understanding as to what they do. But because the weather situation, especially if you have heavy snows, I think there's a very good chance they may hibernate if there is an issue with them having substance sustenance, during the wintertime.
Okay, so let me ask you this then, in a change of pace here,
Uh-huh.
you know, do these cryptids then store food, or have they been seen storing food like a chipmunk or a squirrel would do?
I don't know. They may. I don't know of any evidence that shows that they have. For people, especially individuals up in your neck of the woods that do the research up there, they may have some evidence, but quite frankly, I'm around here, we don't see that.
Hmm. That would make sense.
Yeah, it
You know,
would.
I mean, look, if they've learned anything from watching in their relationships with First Nations over the centuries, you think they would learn to maybe how to store food over a winter, by drying it out, by hanging it, and bleeding the blood from it, and whether it's a deer or a rabbit or a grouse or any type of prey. It would make sense.
Yeah. Well, I guess the biggest question would be: are they as sophisticated to do that as humans probably would, or humans would? Are they more? Are their instincts more animal as opposed to how we store food? I mean, are they just opportune hunters and eat what they can and just not store things? Of course, some animals do that, but most predators don't. So I don't know. Can you classify a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch as a predator? I think you probably could, but they're omnivorous, so who knows?
Let's get to another question here from our audience, and let's go and say hello to D. Syfy, who is asking, could these be reflections from other realities that come in frequency waves?
Absolutely. I believe that's very possible. A lot of times people, and I always refer back to some cryptid sightings where people have seen like prehistoric animals that just show up all of a sudden. Or is it some type of doorway to another reality, to a former time opening up, a time slip? I think it's absolutely possible as far as with cryptids.
Okay, and if it is possible with cryptids, do you think then that maybe, like Justin's next question is about the Thunderbird. Do you
Mhm.
think that maybe we're not seeing them flying or walking in our timeline, that they're actually walking in a different timeline that we are getting a pictorial view of?
See, that's being open-minded, because until we're more open-minded about these beings, I don't think we're going to come up with answers. So yeah, it's good that people are open-minded about it, and coming up with these theories. It's just a matter of being able to prove it. But I think it's entirely possible.
Let's get to another question here, Lon, from Justin. Any Thunderbird sightings?
I'm trying to think the last time I had a Thunderbird sighting reported. It's been a while. We do occasionally get some up here in Pennsylvania. Most of the Thunderbird sightings we get are in the upper Midwest. Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, that area.
What is it about these giant, sightings of, whether it's the Thunderbird or whether it's pterodactyls or something big like that, that still intrigues us, Lon?
Well, it intrigues us because if just imagine you're someone who sees something that looks like a pterodactyl. What's the first thing you're going to think? Why am I seeing this? I've been taught in school that these things are no longer alive. This is something that was supposedly a natural animal eons ago, but here it is. Now, why is it here? It's supposed to be extinct. Well, I mean, can you use that same analogy for Bigfoot or upright canines or even Mothman? I mean, can we say the same thing about them? The pterosaur phenomenon has intrigued me for a long time. Do I believe it's true? Yeah, I think it is. I think there's some proof that people have seen these things. I have never seen it. Some of the descriptions that I have heard over the years, and the way people describe it and how they come across it, and even other sightings I have had recently a sighting down in Texas, and Texas is one area where we get a lot of these winged cryptids, particularly the pterosaur type beings, sighted. But we also get the small dinosaur sightings down there as well. There's something about Texas. I don't know what it is, but there's some really weird sightings that occur down there, especially down in the area south of San Antonio, down into the Rio Grande area, and then out west up into before it goes into New Mexico. There's just a lot of strange things have been seen. People just don't. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of these sightings that are reported to me come from indigenous people.
Yeah, the indigenous people just seem to have a pace on what's going on with it. I mean, but it's interesting with the indigenous, because you can be in an area where one reservation totally believes the creature is supernatural, and the next creature, and they pray for it, and they've traded with it, and then the next reserve, say 20 miles away or 50 miles away, absolutely is petrified of the creature.
Yeah.
And want nothing to do with it. It's a demon. It's haunted them for centuries. It's amazing how that change comes through. And Lon, let's talk about that when we return on Spaced Out Radio. Lon Strickler and Strange Days continues. Lon's website, phantomsandmonsters.com. We're going to continue with the great stories and the great information on all things monsters on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Good morning, Skip to Malou. Nice to see you. And who else has arrived late here? Free Your Mind, how are you? There we go. Vanessa, did I say hello to you today? If I haven't, I apologize. I thought I had. T-Bone, thank you for that great super chat. Very much appreciate that. And Aaron Bacca, how are you? Good to have you back. The show is flying, Lon. Just flying. That's good stuff. Any investigations this weekend coming up?
Nope. No, I'm not currently doing anything right now. I tell you, it's been so damn hot here. The smoke and everything coming from the forest fire, and nobody wants to do anything.
I don't blame you.
It's awful.
I know what that's like, my friend.
I go out at night and walk, and man, it's sometimes it's out there. It's not that I can't see. It's just so the smell is just so awful, it makes you sick.
Oh yeah, we had a couple weeks ago. We had an 8-year-old boy pass away from the forest fire smoke here.
Is that right?
Due to uncontrollable asthma.
Oh, well, I can imagine. When I went out to Chicago in early June, it was smoky the whole way from Pennsylvania to Illinois. It was. I mean, you'd look out onto the plains and there's just smoke everywhere. It was so thick with smoke, and yeah, it was pretty bad. But we hadn't really been getting it too bad here. But the past couple of weeks, it's been pretty bad. The smell has been really bad. It's been so hot and then humid too. It just kind of lingers.
Yeah. You need a good rain.
Yeah, we did have a good rainstorm the other night, and it kind of cleared up for a day. But I was outside earlier for the show, and it starts stinking up again. So.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine because I've been through it.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Hi, Dead Fish. How you doing?
My
Zen
buddy up in Ontario, he lives just north of Lake Ontario.
Yeah.
And he said it's been terrible up there.
Jeremy Jones, how you doing? The funny part about it is the Canadian government is trying to blame this on climate change. And I think 80% of the fires that have started this year have been man-made.
Oh, absolutely.
It's hilarious. Not that I'm a climate change denier or anything, but I would call myself climate change suspect. How dare you? How dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why it's got my allergies going crazy.
Health-wise, you're doing good?
Oh, yeah. I can't complain. I mean, as much as I've been through the past year, just damn lucky.
Well, we're glad that you're here, buddy. Glad that you're here.
Well, like I told you before, when Butch passed away, I kind of started thinking, I don't want that to happen to me. So I need to do everything I can to make sure I'm healthy. And that's why I did all I did. I mean, fortunately, they did find cancer when I was going through all that, but we got it taken care of. But no, I'm healthier now than I've been 30 years.
That's perfect. Perfect. We got 9 seconds here, Lon.
Okay.
Hold on.
That's great.
We're halfway through Spaced Out Radio tonight. Here comes the second half. My name is Dave Scott. Glad to be your host with a tinfoil wrapped up around me. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. Once again, we have Lon Strickler from Strange Days here as he joins us from phantomsandmonsters.com. You can find all of Lon's books by going to our good friends at Amazon. Lon, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, dude.
Always a pleasure, my man. Always a pleasure. And for you, getting the jump on a lot of these subjects that we talk about. Right before the break, we were having a little chat about, oh goodness, why did my mind all of a sudden go blank? I just had it. Oh, the beauty of live radio. Beauty of live radio.
I can't remember what we were talking about either, to be honest with you.
Well, let's hit up the audience. Hey, what were we talking about? What were we talking about? If you're in our chat room, remind us what we were talking about. Son of a gun. This is ridiculous.
Oh.
Boy, I haven't had a brain fart like this in a long time, my man. A long time. Holy cow. Hold on. The audience is usually pretty good about this.
Maybe they forgot too. Maybe it's Thunderbirds.
Was it Thunderbirds?
I don't know. Was it?
It was about not during the break, about being healthy. Right before the break. Was it Thunderbirds? Oh, hibernation and food gathering? No.
Wow. That's weird.
Totally weird. Maybe we're not supposed to talk about it.
Oh, we were talking about the indigenous.
Yes.
The indigenous.
Yes. Let's go there. Yeah. Thank you, Stephen Edmond, in our chat room for filling us brainiacs up with this. But it is true. I don't know how it is down in the United States, but up here, the band who is in our area.
Yeah.
They believe Sasquatch is a shapeshifter, has supernatural powers and everything like that. You have to respect it. You don't go chasing it at night. You don't piss it off. Yet we have other reserves around here where they're like, no, I'm not going into that area if there's Sasquatch. There's just no way that they're bad and they're out to get us and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just amazing how these stories can change in such a close vicinity.
Well, my family is a lot of my family is Cherokee. So they're from Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, and the Smoky Mountains in that area up there. And but I used to pal around with J.C. Johnson and do a lot of the investigations and talk to a lot of people that he knew, and people who lived on the res. And it's fascinating, some of the stuff that you hear. Um, the Bigfoot phenomena on the Navajo reservation is very intriguing because they don't call it, they call it the furry one. And some of the stories I have heard from indigenous people and the encounters they have had are just, it's just like it's just like it's every day, you know, they're just part of, you know, their being. But of course, there have been instances where something else would show up and just wreck a farm or something, kill animals, and you know there was a instance near Hogback in New Mexico, which is on the reservation, where something was attacking sheep and literally draining the blood from sheep. JC had looked into that for a long time. I had actually talked to Brenda Harris about it as well, because she investigates on the reservation, and I've interviewed both of them, of course, on my YouTube channel. But anyway, they never saw it, but the evidence was that there was something that would fly in there, something big that would fly in there and attack these sheep and drain the blood and fly off. Never took any carcasses, but many times the rams and the ewes were just totally drained of blood.
Yes.
And they just didn't know what it was. So of course, you know, some people thought, well, maybe it's a skinwalker, but that's not indicative of a skinwalker. I mean, you know, so there's so many stories on the reservation. It's amazing. It really is. But the way they tell it to you and the way they explain it, and then it's part of their beliefs and their lore and their religion, that it's just part of what they are.
Mm-hmm. No, and I see that, and I can appreciate exactly what you're saying. I mean, the relationship that many First Nations people have how can I put this? Have with the cryptid world,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's Sasquatch, Dogman, Thunderbirds, um, Great Spirit bears, little people, forest dwellers, you name it. I mean, there's a special relationship that goes on there that has been cultivated over millennia. And trust me, I know First Nations people who this day, they're scared of the little people because of the trickster ways that they have. You know, just your thoughts on a lot of these stories that are still relevant today.
Yeah. You know, there are a lot of times, and this has happened many times, where would report on something, on a cryptid, or you know, something that happens that I'll get a response from an indigenous person or you know, a First Nations person who will contact me and say, well, you know, this is something we've grown up with. We have similar things happen where we live at, but it's just part of what we are. You know, a lot of times they don't understand why we get so worked up about Bigfoot and other cryptid creatures. It's almost like second nature to them, and they just don't understand why why we are so intrigued, and you know, why we want to find out more about them. It's just, you know, it's just second nature. Now, when it comes to skinwalkers or something like that has something to do with the occult, but that's a different story, because most of them will not talk about it. The younger folks will, because they hear the stories from their parents and grandparents. But for the most part, the older folks do not even talk about it. It's like pulling teeth. And you know, I have tried in the past, and I've been told off a few times too, so I've just learned not to say too much about it.
Yeah, and you know, you really have to, with First Nations people, because they have been harassed and bullied about their legends and stories over the centuries, that it's very hard for them to trust the white man when it comes to you know talking about these creatures and the reality of their existence. It's something that is very difficult for many to this day.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just look at my own family and uh, and stories that have been passed down, even though they have changed over the years, over the generations. But all in all, they're about the same. And when you start listening to what they had to say about the wild man, which is the Bigfoot or any other type of creature, they understand it. They even though they're more westernized and but they do understand it. My older relatives, especially, maybe not so now because, well, I'm an older relative now too. So the ones that passed before me, but yeah, I mean, there was reverence there. I used to ask a lot of questions when I was a kid. We used to go down there, and I could tell you some stories. But anyway, I will tell you one, and I don't know if I talked about this before, but my uncle George, actually, he had a farm. He was right off the foothills, right there, going up into the Great Smoky Mountains. He was in a town near called Bakersville, North Carolina. And it's an area that's had Bigfoot sightings for many, many years. Well, he had a still up in the mountain. And, he made his own corn liquor and everything up there. But he used to complain because the wild man would come in there and just tear his still up all the time. And what it was doing was going after the corn mash. Apparently, it liked the corn mash, but it would tear up his whole still in the meantime. So, but they knew. I mean, they didn't call it Bigfoot back then. That was before the whole Bigfoot moniker thing even came around. I never heard of Bigfoot until the Patterson-Gimlin film. But, this was before that when I was really young. And back then, they just called her a wild man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy.
It's still, to me, listening to, I'm going to call it having the privilege of sitting down with First Nations elders to talk about this creature and the trades their ancestors made, in order, whether it was food and fish and tack and even tobacco at times, or peyote, in order to keep this creature happy. And the creature would bring berries and leaves and leather from the hides of the meat it ate. I mean, there's plenty of deep trading stories between creatures like Sasquatch. What amazes me, though, is you don't hear these same stories from Dogman. You don't hear these same stories from the Star People. They are petrified. First Nations, that is, are petrified of the Star People. I remember talking to one elder in my community, and I was asking him about Sasquatch, and he just shook his head. He goes, "No, we don't get the Sasquatch." He goes, "Very few times do we get the Sasquatch." And then he kind of got mad, and he goes, "I just wish those damn Star People would leave my people alone. I'm tired of them. I'm tired of my people disappearing."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you talk to Cherokee Nations people, and they talk about. Of course, people have heard about the Brown Mountain Lights down in North Carolina. Well, that's a real phenomenon to them, because the people used to go missing when those things would show up, and there have been a few things said here and there over the years. I wish I'd have heard more of it, But in fact, Butch had been down there at one point and talked to a lot of people. He actually did some research down there for years, back and forth down Brown Mountain. But yeah, they do not like that light phenomena in those. That is scary. I mean, of course, I have talked to the people out in the Four Corners, the Navajo, the Apache, and yeah, they are not thrilled about the otherworldly beings.
Yeah. Are you finding more and more that we are seeing encounters with cryptids and extraterrestrials?
I think, let's put it this way. I think if we are keep more open-minded about it, that we will recognize there is a connection. Now, personally, I think there's a real connection. I think you believe that as well.
Yes, I do.
And you know, I've heard enough things over the years that it's convinced me that there's definitely a connection between cryptids and otherworldly beings.
How many of these otherworldly beings that we consider cryptids now are from here? Okay, like, do you believe Sasquatch is from here? Do you believe a lot of these tricksters are from here? Or do you think they were maybe dropped off by extraterrestrial species over time?
Well, that's the $64,000 question right there. I mean, you know, what can we prove? I mean, we can have theories about this all day long, but what can we really prove? You know, when I wrote my book, Alien Disclosure, you know, I was taking experiencers' reports for the book. I mean, from abductions to encounters and you name it. And the anecdotal evidence that was offered to me, I mean, I really had to think real hard about it. I really did. You know, I know my wife was scared to death about me getting involved with that. She had a bad feeling about that from the very beginning. But the more and more I heard, the more of a connection I believe there really is. Now, will we continue to observe that? Will we continue to recognize that there is a connection? I think we will. And I'm hoping that people that get involved with cryptids and the paranormal, supernatural, and even otherworldly beings, and get involved with that in that research and investigations, will be open-minded enough to, if they do see something that suggests a connection, that they will look into it further. I don't know how far along we have come there, but I think we're a lot closer than what we were.
Let's get to this question from War Criminal in our chat room. Have you ever personally seen a dog man?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
Would you want to?
Nope. Honestly, I really don't want to. I mean, if I saw one at a distance, I would probably be thrilled to death. Well, I would be thrilled to death. I don't want to come across one of them because I don't know how I'd even handle that. You know, when I had my Bigfoot encounter. But you know what? It's funny that when you do have an encounter like that, the way you do react kind of surprised. I think you surprised yourself. I think I surprised myself. I think I handled it a lot better than I thought I probably would have. Somebody would have asked me that before that. maybe there's something that just goes off instinctively that, maybe some of us are more curious and, when we see something that we can't explain, we just want to find out more and more about it. I think I think that's what I am. I know it. And that's what it was because that's how I got involved with cryptids. And of course, when we had the winged humanoid encounter with the other guys I was with, I wanted to know what that was. Now, I can't, I would think if I would have an encounter with a cryptid canine, maybe it would be different. But then again, the way I handle the other ones, maybe it wouldn't be. Maybe I would be more interested in it. I guess our fears kind of control us to a degree, but I don't know. I don't know.
It's an interesting thought, though.
It is, though. I mean, you don't know how you would react to something like that.
S. Vermet is asking, as we got about 3.5 minutes to go, do you have any stories of Sasquatch fighting, Dogman?
I've only ever heard of one, and that came from JC up in Minnesota, that area where he was investigating near the. There was a reservation, went too far, but one of his friends had some property up there, and from all indications, they were both Bigfoot and upright canines on the same property. And, now I never seen it, but apparently there had been some back and forth. Now, I don't know if it was deadly or what to the extent was, but JC swore that it did happen. So all I can do is go by what he said, but I had never seen but I've heard stories.
I don't know. Who do you think's winning that fight?
I guess it depends how mean and big each one of them is. I don't know. I wouldn't want to get in the middle of it, though.
I think Dogman has the speed, but
I think so too.
Has the power, and I also believe that Sasquatch has had more time in watching the legendary Iron Sheik, God bless his soul, okay, and literally picks him up for a pile driver, and then while Dogman's down, throws him in the camel clutch, breaking his back, making him humble.
That's you're aging us tonight.
I still think it goes that way.
Yeah.
I'm 100% convinced.
It may. I mean, for all indications and from things that have been told to me by eyewitnesses and such, I would think that, most likely if the cryptid canine is big enough, it's probably got an advantage.
You really think so?
Yeah, maybe.
That's
why I don't want to run across one of them.
I really think Sasquatch can pin him for the 3 count.
You think so?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Power, the power. It's like if we go old school wrestling, it would be like Shawn Michaels taking on Andre the Giant. Speed, finesse, and lightning quick reflexes versus just massive strength and power. One choke slam.
Yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Lon, want to say a big thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio again tonight, my man. It is always a pleasure to have you here, and we will talk to you again at the end of August.
Sounds good. You have a good night, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely, and keep up the great work that you do in tracking down all of these amazing stories for our listeners and your tens of thousands of followers who follow you on a weekly basis. You do great work there at phantomsandmonsters.com. Everyone needs to check that out. Coming up next, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing has a great spooky story for us. Then, little Timmy Senor returns with the UFO report. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio for Hour 3. Great job, Lon. Thank you.
Okay, Dave. Well, I'll talk to you soon. You take care. Anything comes up, you let me know.
I will, buddy. You take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Bye. Lon Strickler, everybody. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. right. Little Timmy Senor's looking good in the background. I Abnormal Investigations. Hello, Wes H. How you doing? Sweet Tony D, good morning to you in the UK. Good to have you all here. Thank you for joining us. Oh, he's on the 2-week DL. That's good. Excuse me. Thank you tonight to T-Bone, Martimus, Louis ×2, T2E, Simon ×2, or Louis ×2, pardon me, and Deb. Thank you so much for the great super chats. Very much appreciated. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell. We're here 7 days a week. Here comes hour number 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Gentacular. Gentacular is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time of the night where we head over to Steve Stockton from the YouTube channel Among the Missing for a creepy story to kick off hour number 3.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Now let's look at the sailing stones of Death Valley. In Death Valley, there's a fascinating occurrence called the sailing stones. These stones, found in racetrack playa near the California border, come in different sizes, ranging from a few ounces to several hundred pounds. Something interesting about them is that they move by themselves without the influence of gravity. Although no one has ever seen the stones move, their changing positions and the paths that they behind confirm that they do indeed move. Rocks that make up the trails are made of dolomite and syenite, which have the same composition as the surrounding mountains. The rocks break off due to erosion and roll onto the dry ground below, leaving trails as long as 1,500 feet. Scientists have noted that rocks with rough bottoms move in a straight line, while those with smooth bottoms tend to move in a meandering pattern. The phenomenon of sailing stones has been studied since the early 1900s, and various theories have been proposed to explain their mysterious movement. The sand dunes in Death Valley may be small, but they offer some of the most impressive views in the park. The Eureka sand dunes, which rise over 680 feet, are stunning. At the top of the dunes, you can witness a unique occurrence found only in the desert, singing sand. The sand flows down the steep slopes. It produces a sound similar to a pipe organ or distant airplane hum. While the exact cause is unknown, it is believed to result from friction between sand particles. This phenomenon is rare and can only be experienced at a few locations globally. Next, there may be an ancient subterranean city of giants underneath Death Valley. There's a captivating story among the Paiute Indians in Death Valley about an underground world called Shin-Av-Ah. According to the legend, a Paiute chief lost his wife and went on a journey to find her in the realm of the dead. After overcoming many obstacles, he arrived at a spacious natural amphitheater where he was reunited with his beloved. Unfortunately, their story ends tragically, similar to the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, and he loses her once again. There are rumors about an underground cave and catacomb system found beneath Death Valley, which is believed to have been built by an ancient civilization. In the 1920s, a trapper named White stumbled upon underground rooms and tunnels while exploring an old mine. He discovered several human mummies dressed in leather and surrounded by precious items. A Paiute trapper and guide, Tom Wilson, shared a story about his grandfather's discovery, similar to White's. Despite their efforts, they were still searching for the caves. In 1932, Bork Lee wrote Death Valley Men, telling the story of Jack and Bill, who accidentally stumbled upon the tunnels. They had fallen through an abandoned mine shaft and found mummies and treasures like others before them. There have been reports of individuals who have discovered tunnels in Death Valley but could not locate them again and went missing. In 1947, Howard E. Hill shared an intriguing story about Dr. F. Bruce Russell, a retired physician from Cincinnati, Ohio, at the Los Angeles Transportation Club. While conducting archaeological excavations in Mexico a few years prior, Dr. Russell accidentally discovered a complex network of tunnels buried beneath Death Valley with his colleague, Dr. Daniel S. Bovee. It has been reported that Russell relocated to the western region to improve his health and explore potential mining opportunities. Regrettably, while excavating a shaft for his mining venture, he fell into a cave due to soil collapse. Surprisingly, he discovered a maze of tunnels that led in various directions. Russell and Bovee discovered the well-preserved remains of three giants standing at a height of 8 to 9 feet in a cavern. The giants were adorned in what appeared to be a gray-dyed sheepskin-like material of unknown origin. The room was decorated with artifacts resembling Egyptian and Native American designs, and the walls were made of polished granite with hieroglyphics etched into them. During their exploration, the adventurers came across what they believed to be the burial site of the tribal chiefs. Further investigation led them to stumble upon an ancient ritual hall where they discovered numerous artifacts, markings, and well-preserved remains of extinct animals such as dinosaurs, elephants, and tigers. Later analysis determined that these bones likely belonged to prehistoric creatures such as saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths. Russell reportedly told Hill that what they had found was only the beginning. They uncovered evidence of 32 tunnels across 180 square miles in Death Valley and parts of southern Nevada. Despite this, their claims were met with skepticism from professional archaeologists due to the significant time gap between the existence of dinosaurs and saber-toothed tigers. As a result, the scientific community showed little interest in pursuing the matter. However, Dr. Russell and a team of investors established Amazing Explorations Incorporated to manage the disclosure and financial opportunities linked to the discovery. Strangely, Russell disappeared while trying to find a location to show his friends in the desert. Despite months of searching, no leads were found until his car was located in a remote area of Death Valley. Although the car's radiator was damaged, his suitcase was found. Additionally, Dr. Bovee, who was also involved in the case, also vanished, making the situation even more perplexing. And now, the Manson family hid out in Death Valley. Barker Ranch, situated in the park, is associated with Charles Manson and his group, known collectively as the Family. Manson chose the location due to its remote and difficult-to-access nature. Despite the rough roads, Manson and his followers reached the ranch using a school bus. They occupied the farm in 1968, and it was there that Manson planned the infamous Tate LaBianca murders before being arrested in 1969. During the arrest, a police officer noticed Manson's hair sticking out from under a sink cabinet in the bathroom. There have been rumors for years about additional potential victims, including hitchhikers and individuals who visited the farm and vanished without any explanation. One of the girls living at the ranch did not get along with Manson, and one day he took her for a walk, and she was never seen again. While no other bodies associated with him have ever been found in the area, they may be buried somewhere in the park.
And thank you to Steve Stockton for another creepy story tonight. We always say thank you to kicking off hour number 3 for us here on Spaced Out Radio. And if you want more stories just like that, head on over to youtube.com/Among the Missing and hit subscribe for more stories like that. From the missing to the stars, it is time to bring back little Timmy Senor and the UFO report.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
There he is, the man, the myth, and the legend, all wrapped into one. Little Timmy Senor. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Really good. Just a little tired, a little out of it, but yeah, and shell-shocked, I guess.
Well, our audience here wants to know a couple of things.
Uh-oh.
Okay, because you were up here for a few days visiting SOR headquarters. What was it like sitting in this chair for you?
I'm going to have to ask my body double exactly what that felt like, because that was a clone that you met. It's just a really well-oiled machine. It was pretty special. And you definitely led me on quite an adventure, fed and fueled by Timbits and snow caps.
Yeah, how did you like the ice cap and the Timbits?
Ice cap, rather. There we go. Yeah, typical. Absolutely typical of Dave to bring the heat. Yeah, it was delicious. I can't see, doing that too often. Otherwise, Timbit would become a Tim Bake.
Yeah, Tim Large.
That's
Tim
right.
Large.
That's right.
But it was exciting to have you up here and stay at my home for a couple of days and hang out with Merle and Samantha Mowat. I mean, we can't go into detail, okay? But I want your opinion on something here because you saw it face to face. We have had over the years Samantha on a number of times, probably 30, 40 times on this show. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more. I don't know. But a lot of people, when it comes to psychics or people who claim to have contact, we always hear the anecdotal arguments. Where's the proof? Oh, this sounds like crap. This person doesn't sound real. It looks like they're making it up off the top of their heads. When you saw Samantha in action, bringing her knowledge, what was your opinion of that?
I've definitely never met anyone like that before. And, there's something to that ability that I still really don't understand. To be able to sense things before they happen or be able to see things that are just beyond the realm of our vision is amazing. And to see it up close and personal, spooky. Spooky, I guess, is a fair word, but she's an amazing individual, and what a personality and loving person, very, very endearing and compassionate, not just to, the project, but to everyone that she comes into contact with, pretty much. She's very empathetic. So she senses when people have a need around her, and she just is drawn to them, whoever they are, and usually has a message or some kind of help, and she delivers it completely, just altruistically, I guess is the word I would use. Yeah.
100% genuine of what we have explained to our audience.
Yeah. Maybe part alien, but she's fantastic. Yeah.
And what do you think of working with Merle?
Yeah.
Merle.
So I had no idea I was meeting such an amazing filmmaker and dedicated researcher. he's like an on-the-go debunker of his own work and everything around him. He's super perceptive, and he's got a really good eye, I think, for locations and for people that are valuable in the paranormal world. He's just gets it, and he's just a all-around great guy. Fun to be around.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah.
We had a really really good time regarding what we were doing, and hopefully very very soon the public gets to see what we are working on and everything that goes along with it, because I think they're going to be pleasantly shocked and awed with what we did.
Indeed. Very much in sync with each other, all three of you. It was something to behold. It was really cool to see how the three of you together really created some magic at those locations. So, it would be probably a normal day for just me to walk through some of those places, but what the three of you guys generate together is something else, and sometimes you got to look into multiple dimensions to figure it out. And I mean that figuratively, of course, everyone. So,
Oh yeah,
oh yeah,
very very much so.
a little bit of woo for you, for sure.
I all I will say is this: unless I'm really hoping we never go back. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm really hoping we never go back.
That's why we definitely will.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm bringing a tank next time.
Yeah. I mean, I get it.
So
Yeah.
one other thing before, because and the reason why I'm asking you all this is because you haven't been around for a week, and since you were here, and the audience has been very very excited about kind of hearing what you thought of it. What do you think of the area? And when I come off the top of the show and I say from the top of the mountains of central British Columbia, I mean, you got a firsthand look of where SOR headquarters is. You've never been up here. You've never driven through the Fraser Canyon. You've never, been up this far north. What was your opinion of everything?
It's rugged. It's really rugged and beautiful and breathtaking. I mean, it's really hard to put it into words because I mean, I'm kind of from the mountains, being from upstate New York, but it definitely delivers on majesty, I guess is the word. And once you leave a town, you are on your own. Hope you've got gas and hope you've got some, emergency blankets and supplies, because on our road back to the airport, one of these mountain truckers decides to turn over his dump truck and close 2 lanes of highway. And so our crew had to wait almost 3 hours in the middle of the night in the cold.
It wasn't cold.
It was all right. Yeah. Dave in the shorts in his Jeep with the top down. Don't even get me started.
Okay, so I have a Jeep Wrangler, okay? And I've got the top down all summer. Okay? And here I am in a t-shirt and my shorts on. I got my hat backwards, got the metal pounding, and I can see Tim shivering. He's leaning towards the heaters. So I had to have the heaters cranked just for Tim. And he's leaning. I've got the windows up, even though there's no roof on it. And he's damn near chattering his teeth. Okay. I mean, it was only about 57 degrees. I mean, that's t-shirt and shorts weather.
Don't get me started. Do not get me started. The outtakes from this are going to be a lot of fun. You and I know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Any memorable experiences that you will share?
Well, I've got a couple stills that I can share during the break. Some visuals. Yeah, weird sounds, weird things in the skies. Um, yeah, we did a great job capturing stuff. Your team leads, some pretty cool investigations in all realms of the phenomenon. I've never seen a ghost before, right? I mean, that was new. So it's a cool thing. It's a fun experience, and you guys delivered in some weird, wild locations. I will definitely say that.
Yeah. My guy upstairs in the barn, when we investigated the barn, he wasn't too happy that somebody took his whiskey.
Yeah, well, we got him.
Just don't tell him that we got him, okay?
I think he knows. He was salty.
I gotta go back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. We'll enjoy that. Now that's a place I might not go back to.
Really?
Well, not alone. I wouldn't go up there alone. Hell no.
I'm bringing him. I've got my whiskey ready for him.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
We're supposed to be doing the UFO report. I gave you all this stuff, and you're talking about our trip here.
Well, you know what? It's because our audience wanted to know.
Oh,
okay, our audience wanted to know.
They didn't. No, they didn't. They're just like, "Where's the news?" is what they're saying.
All right, let's get to it.
All right.
3 minutes to go. President Biden's administration has distanced itself from a Pentagon official who bashed the UFO hearing. This cannot be good for Sean Kirkpatrick.
No, indeed. And so after this congressional hearing, he found it insulting, in fact, that some of these people came out and were saying that it was the administration's fault that these secrets have been perpetuated for so long. So Kirkpatrick, the director of the Aero office, said the hearing was insulting to the officers in the Department of Defense and intelligence community who joined Aero, which is a specialized department of the DoD tasked with studying the UFO phenomenon. So many joined Aero with not unreasonable anxieties about the career risks that would entail, and have been working diligently, tirelessly, and often in the face of harassment and animosity to satisfy the congressionally mandated mission, Kirkpatrick said as part of his lengthy statement. So Aero's top man's comments, are his personal opinions expressed in his capacity as a private citizen. So the DoD spokesperson Susan Goff said in an email to Fox News Digital, "We won't comment directly on the contents of this post." Kirkpatrick took offense to the UFO whistleblower David Grush's under oath statements that alleged that whistleblowers faced physical assaults and threats to their lives, including his own. And he quotes, "I can't get into specifics in an open forum, but what I personally witnessed myself and my wife was very disturbing," said Grush. And so I've also faced brutal, unfortunate tactics of retribution that he called administrative terrorism. So Grush obviously said that he couldn't divulge specifics in an open forum like last week's House Oversight Committee hearing, but there's an open whistleblower reprisal program case against him. But he told the lawmakers that he can detail them in a classified setting. So recently I found out through Disclosure Tonight that there will be more hearings coming at the end of September, specifically around the 25th. So some of these hopefully will be addressed points in that hearing that's upcoming. And so I would love to get your opinion on this, Dave, because we know that Kirkpatrick has been kind of bold in his statements.
Well, let's get that reaction when we get back on Spaced Out Radio. Little Timmy Senor, the man who is now officially eating Timbits, returns on Spaced Out Radio right after this. Stay tuned. All right, buddy, we're clear.
Cool.
Sapphire Elf's new catchphrase is "Skiff it." We need T-shirts that read "Skiff it."
Has to be spoken about.
Yeah. You gonna show us a picture too?
Yeah. Let's see what we got here.
Hold on, let me. Nice picture. Oh yeah, that's in the. That one is taken at the recovery cul-de-sac of Flight 21. Hi, Eli McGinnis. How you doing? Hi, Chris. Teen. And what else do we got here, Timmy?
All right. Let's see what we can find. This one's pretty cool. Whoops. See if I can make this easier. Not sure why I'm getting such a glare.
That is Merle and Samantha sitting on a log.
I'm not sure. Hang on a second. It looks good on mine. That is just not coming through for you guys. Sorry. Needs to be brighter. Let's see here.
Where's the Bud Lights? Who drinks Bud? Or Bud Light? We're on Kokanee.
So many good pictures. I can't.
Hey, Dead Fish.
That, you can't see that.
That was a cool setup, though. That's Samantha. And that's where Merle was doing a Estes method at that point. That's a nice photo.
It's hard to see. Those dark ones. There you go. Where's Samantha?
Oh, that was when we heard where I heard the child clapping in the trees, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. I actually really don't remember what.
Yeah, no, that's when that is, because Samantha came running up and we were running. That's before we took off trying to figure out where that clapping was coming from. Oh, that's the camera crew and Samantha there.
A lot of these are movies. This one's tons of fun.
The hell was that one? Oh, that was in Hope, British Columbia, where Rambo was filmed. Right beside That's right beside the Chevron gas station.
Not really proud of that. Not my best moment.
That's a nice picture. That's a nice picture.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deb.
This is where that is.
Yeah.
If you guys remember Rambo First Blood, you'll know where we are.
Yep. Yep. We got 45 seconds. If you got time for one more, that'd be cool. Thank you again, Louis. Oh, that's flying over the Rockies. All right, a big thank you tonight to Louis with a hat trick, Simon with a hat trick, Deb times 2, T Tui, and Martimus and T-Bone for the great super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. And we're going to come back with our number 2 right now. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Tim Senor is here for the UFO report, and we're talking about the Biden administration not being very happy with the actions and antics of Arrow UFO head Sean Kirkpatrick. In that article, Tim, and before I give my comment, could you just maybe comment on why the Biden administration is pretty displeased with this? You're on mute, my friend.
Yeah, you may want to bring yourself back up on screen. You have me on full screen. But the UFO congressional hearings was insulting to the U.S. employees, according to the top Pentagon official, Kirkpatrick. And so he's saying that these claims from Grush were insulting to the employees who are investigating the sightings and accusing a key witness of not cooperating with the official U.S. government investigation.
See, I think that's great. I think that shows legitimacy in what is going on. I mean, look, we know this is a bipartisan topic, okay? Kirkpatrick, we know, has also been handcuffed because the militaries have not given him the amount of budget he was supposed to get in order to set up. So I could understand his frustration. But on the flip side, if you're running a UFO program, or if I was running a UFO program, wouldn't you be excited, ecstatic about any type of UFO report or video that you have access to? And this guy, he acts like he has the worst job ever. Like he's having to clean toilets after a Super Bowl in Miami. Okay. How horrible does your job have to be? I worked with a guy. Okay. My sports director in Vancouver was just a miserable son of a gun. Okay. I couldn't stand him. Hated the man. Hated him. Every day was the worst day ever. And I couldn't understand it because we got paid to cover sports. We got paid to go to hockey games and football games and watch the PGA golfers in town. Okay? Sure, sometimes the job was tumultuous and horrible. Okay, especially when you had to cover soccer games. Okay, but for the most part, we got paid to cover sports. A dream job that most people would die to have, man. I didn't pay for a round of golf in 10 years. Okay, because I would always call in a favor at a big time golf course. That was the bomb, man. Okay, that was great. But this guy was miserable. Miserable. And it reminds me of Kirkpatrick because he seems miserable. I can understand if you're not getting the budget. I can understand if you're not getting the phone calls. Well, then come out and say it. Come out and say what you have. Don't blame the people who are trying to report and you're not doing anything about it. Okay? You're not doing your job to protect these whistleblowers. You're not doing your job to get the intel to make this job happen. I would die for that job, man. Figuratively speaking, of course. Okay? I would be all over the place for that job. I'd be supporting any type of research, but to be able to go up there and insult David Grush and insult Lou Elizondo and insult all of these people because you're towing an outdated company line that Susan Goff has her minions in the UFO Twitter world absolutely fed more like a turkey on Thanksgiving weekend. Okay, it's incredulous, Tim. What your opinion?
Absolutely. And I mean, in my opinion, it's despicable, borderline criminal. It's his job. And he's basically defending the secrecy that's gone on for over 75 years. Every time he opens his mouth, and, he's been planted in NASA's hearings, and he was there to control that narrative while that was going on. Faking the interest that he has in the topic and then claiming not to have knowledge of it. I find it incredibly hard to watch as he discredits people like David Grush. It's not something that's going to stop, but it's definitely something that is kind of expected, as we've seen every spokesperson and every time the Pentagon has said anything on the topic on the whistleblowers, it's either been silence or something under the lines of an attempt to discredit them. So I find it personally insulting to the employees that are coming forward as a whistleblower, just as he says that he's finding it insulting to the employees that are investigating the sightings. I think it's even worse because these are high-ranking military officials. If we can't consider their whistleblowing claims credible, then who can we? So this is a time that's supposed to be progressive, and for somebody to speak out on the anti-progressive movement is just simply moving against the tide. And so at some point, I think that we may see a change in that department because this seems to be a chair position that he can't handle.
It really does. It really does. I mean, look, your job is to make sure these people are protected, to bring you information. Why would you be pissed off at David Grush for coming out saying that his wife and him have been threatened physically, verbally? Okay, their livelihoods have been, attacked. Phone calls at all middle of the night. We can only imagine what was going on. Okay, it sounds, and I hate to use this line, but it sounds eerily similar to what Bob Lazar went through. Okay, with the death threats and everything, and everybody called him a fraud, and to this day, people still call him a fraud.
Yeah, and recently he came out and said, "I told you so,"
Told you so.
which is fantastic.
Absolutely, absolutely. But with David Grush, if this man is this, wouldn't you, in that position, wouldn't it be your job to literally be counseling him on the phone, getting all the information that you can on record, because it gives you ammunition for the position you're in order to focus on cleaning up this UFO mess that the military isn't wanting to play. Instead, you do the exact opposite of what your job tells you to do.
Right. And I think that that is really obvious of the fact that that department is set up to fail. The same way every office before it was set up to fail on anything progressive on this topic. I mean, let's understand for a moment here that they don't want to prove this as a reality. They would love to dismiss it. So if Kirkpatrick can avoid information, he will, because if he's under oath, he would have to potentially talk about it. So he needs to remain out of the know so that under oath, he can truthfully say that he has come across no information.
Mm-hmm. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Let's move on to topic number 2 of the night, which is Russia's UFO engagements. They have their own Tic Tacs, Tim?
That's right. Secret Tic Tac report and 3 key figures slip under the radar at the congressional hearing. Investigative reporter and journalist Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp provided Congress with sworn testimonies which were obtained by Fox News Digital and flanked former Intelligence Community Inspector General at Wednesday's UFO hearing. So the Russian warplanes that were engaging UFOs chased them and even shot at them at least 45 times by 1993, according to the classified Russian documents that investigative reporter George Knapp obtained and smuggled out of Russia. And this just one snippet was revealed earlier today that was written by George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell that covers, excuse me, the fact that back in 1969, the position of our military has been that the UFOs pose no threat to national security and are not worthy of further study. And this dismissive attitude is directly at odds with what has been revealed in the documents reporting and the internal memos. So, as the country's eyes and ears were glued to the 3 explosive testimonies, Corbell whispered something to Charles McCullough as George Knapp listened in with a smirk. McCullough, who is President Barack Obama's former Intelligence Community Inspector General, represented Grush in his Intelligence Community Inspector General complaint, purposefully seated behind him. And so these 3 men sat directly behind Grush, flanked by the Navy pilots, Graves and Fravor, during Wednesday's congressional hearing about UFOs. And so Grush's testimony was talking about recovered biologics of non-human or non-humans rather from alleged UFO crash sites. And this was making national headlines finally, with the details in Knapp's and Corbell's letter that went under the radar up until that point. So it's pretty cool that some of the people that we have been following in ufology here are representing at the UFO congressional hearings. And even though Senator Harry Reid has passed away, some of the deep relationships that were founded around him have been able to come forward and represent some of his wishes to have this represented in front of Congress. And this topic has been pressed forward and deeply researched for a long time by both Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. So for them to be there present and being informing to the congressional committee, it's actually a wonderful change that this side of ufology can actually be represented. So we're not just getting hearsay, we're getting people that are on top of this topic, covering this topic and expressing what needs to be expressed. I think it's great. It needed to happen. Dave, over to you. I mean, this was a big day, I felt.
I think so too. I mean, one of the things that we've always wondered is what is happening over there, because over there seems so far away, whether it's Russia, China, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, you name the country. Okay. It all seems to be, we don't know what's happening over there. And I actually find that there are major similarities between what is going on here and what we've encountered here, being able to compare with what we have had happen over there. I think it's great. We need that continuity. We need to be able to show that continuity, that maybe it's the same creatures, the same species, the same time travelers, whatever they may be, are actually getting together and not just visiting the United States, that they are going to other countries. I mean, are we going to get a world tour? Are we going to get t-shirts for it? Highly doubtful. But you know what? To me, that's a big clue. Like, we can't tell if it's the same craft from the same area or genre because we don't know how many different species are flying these Tic Tac things.
That's right. And
But
George,
it isn't true.
sorry to interrupt you there. That's right. And George Knapp revealed specifically about Russia's 10-year study about UFOs, in which he wrote it was, quote, likely the largest UFO investigation ever undertaken. And that included thousands of case files from interviews with military personnel. The program's director told Knapp about the Russian warplane dogfights with UFOs, and, quote, in most incidents, the UFOs shot away at unbelievable speeds. But in 3 incidents, the Russian warplanes were dibbled and crashed. I'm not sure what that means, but it was 2 in particular of the pilots were killed. And so after those incidents, the MOD issued a national order that UFOs should be left because, in the words of a top air defense official, they may have incredible capacities for retaliation. And I think that that's actually an understatement because we've heard some incredible stories. But it's wonderful that Knapp was able to bring that Russian history with their UFO history case files before Congress and actually get them entered into history.
I think it's great. We got 4 minutes. Let's move on to our next story here. Not that we're trying to rush, but UFO curious lawmakers brace for a fight over government secrets. Your thoughts, Tim?
Absolutely. And so UFO curious lawmakers bracing for a fight over the government secrets. You're absolutely right. I'm just waiting here. So it looks like a bipartisan group of lawmakers on the House Oversight Committee saying a high-profile hearing on UFOs is just the start of the push for answers. And they are threatening to use heavier-handed tactics if the Pentagon and intelligence agencies stand in their way. So, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, Matt Gaetz, Tim Burchett, and Jared Moskowitz want more information on unidentified anomalous phenomenon, commonly referred to as UFOs, beginning with new laws, a classified hearing, and the possible creation of a select committee. The lawmakers said they are willing to use the subpoena method, power if needed, and to get the answers they're seeking from the federal government. If there's not a cover-up, the government and the Pentagon are sure spending a lot of resources to stop us from studying, says Burchett. And he adds that they hope House Speaker Kevin McCarthy can aid them in setting up a select committee to study the issues of UAP, as well as any government program that addresses them. If they don't get leadership approval, they'll just start holding field hearings because the public is demanding that, and they need transparency. So it looks like they're going to be pressing forward, coming in the near months towards September as we reach another one of these hearings. Lawmakers hope to start obtaining additional information and documents that Grush said he submitted to the Pentagon's Inspector General. And so to get the information from Grush, they are going to propose a Pentagon watchdog arm lawmakers want to sit down on the former officials with the former officials in a sensitive compartmented information facility, or SCIF, to get additional information from him. So we're going to see a lot of change coming, and they're not going to stop pushing. And it looks like we're starting to just duplicate people in these seats that are interested, pushing for transparency on UFO. So the months come, more transparency, more hearings. Dave, I think it's going to be pretty groundbreaking, and I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, it's going to keep the subject in. But you know what, Tim? One thing I want to give you credit for and myself credit for, if we could tap ourselves on the back every now and again. Okay. We have been calling this for a while, that this is the first time we are seeing politicians take a public fight against the military industrial complex. They haven't named it that yet, but that's exactly what we're seeing. And in order, I'm just going to say it this way. I never thought that it would be UFOs that see this fight happen. Okay. But the fact is, the more and more politicians that jump on board with this and realize, A, that this story is true, and B, that there is a cover up, along with C, the military is dictating who can and cannot play in this game, and D, knowing that both alien craft and potential alien bodies are sitting in the hands of private corporations, so that way they are null and void of any FOIA requests or paperwork trails. Dude, we are preparing for a brawl. We are preparing for a big bench clearing brawl. And you know what? It's needed. Thank you, Timmy, for a wonderful UFO report. It's good to have you back on air with us, my man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Dave. It's great to be back, and I'm going to go sleep.
Yeah, you need some sleep, my man. You go get caught up after a busy week for you, but we're glad to have you back here on the show. And a big thank you as well to Lon Strickler and, of course, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for another great story. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. That was nice. That was nice. Good job, people. Great work. Great work. All right. Let's get to work here, shall we? Let's get to work here. Heckliff Psy. What's happening? the hell? T-Bone, thank you for that second super chat, my man. Good Canadian kid. Where are you from, T-Bone? Where in the Great White North are you settled? This flavor is blueberry. Any questions? Everybody just stopped chatting? Literally. It's like all of a sudden you guys just stopped chatting. Is the chat room down? Oh. Yeah, apparently so. Well, if that's the case, I'm going to shut this thing down if you guys can hear me, because apparently our YouTube chat is down. Tomorrow night on the show, Geraldine Orozco is back for the Spiritual You. And thank you tonight to T-Bone ×2, Louie ×3, Deb ×2, Simon ×3, T2E, Martimus, and yeah, that's it. We'll see you all tomorrow night. Weird on the chat room thing. Hopefully it doesn't affect us tomorrow. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.